Hello everybody. Today I'm at the little maintenance barn, the end of the parking lot of our church. I showed up, I wanted to do a little bit of grounds work today. And usually I use my own chainsaw, but today I decided I wanted to use our church's. It's a nice saw. It's a Stihl MS271. Kind of a nice one-size-fits-all saw. It's not too big, not too small. As you can see, this particular one was made in July of 2021. And unfortunately, I am fairly certain that this thing has never been serviced. So before I use it today, I want to just do a routine annual service on it. So come along and we'll see what's involved in that. First thing I want to do is take the top off of here. I want to see what the air filter and the spark plugs look like. Now, last time we used this saw, it ran just fine. So it's not an issue if it's not running right. It just, like I said, I don't think it's ever been serviced. So, these things aren't exactly cheap, and the better you take care of them, the longer they're going to last. So let's see what we got. Okay, that is probably the original air filter. And I mean, it doesn't look horrible. It's a little dirty, but I have a new one that I picked up, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to install a new one. It really doesn't look all that dirty in here, but there is something I'd like to point out. If you can see all this fine sawdust in there? You generally only get that when you're running a saw with a dull blade. If the blade's sharp, it's going to cut with wood chips and shavings. It's not going to cut with sawdust like that. So I'm guessing the saw's been ran a little dull. And unfortunately, when you run them dull, you can definitely overheat things. So it's one more reason why you definitely want your saw nice and sharp. So let's put the new air filter on. There we go. You throw this old one in the garbage. We don't need that anymore. And like I said, it doesn't look too gunked up in there. Let's pull the spark plug. I do have a new spark plug for it if we need it. If it looks like junk, I'll put a new one in, but generally speaking, I'm not a fan of changing spark plugs just to change spark plugs. So let's see what this looks like. This actually looks good. Doesn't look like it's burning lean, doesn't look like it's burning rich, doesn't look like it's ever fouled out. So we are not going to replace this plug. We're just going to put this plug right back in and keep on using it, and we will save the extra spark plug for if we ever need it. Now, something else I want to check, and I do want to flip the bar over. It's just something I do on all of my saws every year is I flip the bar upside down so it wears evenly. And oh, this doesn't look good. Let me zoom in and show you something I hadn't even noticed before. See that right up on the tip where the bar has changed color? That got way overheated, which again, that's something that can happen when you're running a dull chain or you run them out of bar oil. If this was my saw, I'd be putting a new bar on it right now, but It's not. So as long as it keeps working, we are going to keep using it. And it doesn't really feel like it's too worn. Yeah, at some point we're going to have to change that. But so I'm going to take the bar and the chain off. In the process of doing that, I want to inspect the clutch and grease the clutch bearing. And see how dirty this looks inside. That's pretty disgusting looking. I'm going to go ahead and clean all this out too. But let's take the bar and the chain off for now. Get this out of our way. And we will deal with this here in a bit. For right now, I'm going to take a few minutes off camera. We put this top back on. And then I'm going to clean all of this out. And when we come back, this will look a lot better. We're back inside. Got it mostly cleaned up. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. Now I want to focus my attention here for a bit. First thing we're going to do is check this sprocket, make sure these teeth aren't worn, and that looks like it's in good shape. So far so good on that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this E-clip in this washer, slide the sprocket drum off, and I want to see what the clutch and the needle bearing look like. Okay, we're going to start by pulling this E-clip off, and we got our clutch disengaged. Easiest way to pull this clip off is honestly downward. So if it gets away from you, it doesn't go flying across the room. And the washer comes off. And the inside of the clutch drum looks fine. You can see the clutch looks okay. None of the springs are missing, everything's intact. And we're going to pull off the needle bearing here. We're going to inspect this. And it looks okay, it looks intact. And I'm just going to take some multi-purpose grease. I'm going to repack this off camera. And then we're going to slide this back on. And when we go to reinstall our clutch drum, you're going to notice that there is a notch right there. That notch is going to correspond, let's see if I can get this on video. It's going to be kind of at the 12 o'clock on your screen. You'll see there's a little pin right there between the clutch and the case. That pin is the end of the worm drive for your bar oiler. So the notch in your drum has to go on that pin. And then as your drum spins around, it's going to provide oil for your bar. I'm not even sure if you can actually get the drum on without it aligned properly, but assuming, let's say you can, and you happen to make that mistake and do it, you're going to get no oil to your bar and you're going to burn everything up. So we got our E-clip back on. Our clutch drum spins fine. Let's engage the clutch. Stops, starts again. So we're all done with that. Now let's turn our attention to the bar and the chain. Now, you know how earlier I showed you the discoloration on the tip of this bar on the sprocket, how it had turned blue, which meant it had overheated and the bar had lost its temper? Well, it's a little worse than I thought. It's all the way down the bottom. And if you flip this bar over, because you can't see because the paint's still good over here, but on the other side, you can see that discoloration is also all the way down the top. So again, if this was my bar, I'd throw it in the trash and I'd go buy a new one. But it doesn't seem like it's worn out to where it still can't be used. The Sprocket still turns nice. So for the time being, we're going to put it back together and use it. I will let the gentleman who handles the facilities here know about it and let him make a call on whether he wants to spend the money on it or not. Something you want to be conscientious of when you put a chain back on a chainsaw is not to put it on backwards. It sounds impossible, but it does happen. So when you look at, these are your cutters, right? This is the part that actually cuts. That's called your raker. That just determines the depth of the cut. So on the top of your bar, you want your cutters pointing forward, and on the bottom, you want the cutters pointing backwards, because this chain is going to run in this direction, and it's going to cut on the bottom. So just make sure you put your chain on correctly. Otherwise, it's not going to work so well. It's actually quite simple to put a bar and a chain back on one of these saws. The first thing you're going to want to do is back your tensioner off so you got plenty of room to work with. And there's a couple different ways to do it. I usually just like to snap the bar on, and then we'll go ahead and drape the chain onto the bar. You can put the chain on and then put the bar on, whatever works best for you. Put the chain along the top of the bar, slide it over our sprocket, and you'll see we've got plenty of slack, which is fine. So now we're going to go ahead and put our cover back on, and you don't want to tighten up your bar nuts. I usually, put them on, get them to bottom them out and then back them off like a half a turn. Otherwise, you won't be able to tighten up your chain, so I'll back it off about a half. Back it off about a half. And this has a side tensioner. Some of the saws you have to tension them from the front. This one's from the side. And we're just going to turn this clockwise, and you'll see the slack start to be taken up. We'll make sure that the chain goes into the bottom groove in the bar. And then we're going to lift the tip of the bar up. We're going to continue to tighten until we get, we can pull it up and we can just see the bottom of a couple links there. That looks pretty good. Now as you run this and you heat it up, you're going to want to check it, because as it heats up, the chain will stretch and it'll loosen up on you. So let's tighten this down. This looks good so far. Make sure our clutch is disengaged. Our chain's moving nice and free. So that looks good. One last thing I want to do, let's sharpen up this chain. As a general rule, I like to touch up a chain. Just use a file about every tank of gas I run through a saw. But occasionally, somebody hits a rock, somebody sticks a thing in the dirt on accident, and it gets pretty dull. And when that happens, it's just easier to use a Dremel tool. And since this is the first sharpening this spring, I'm going to show you how we do that. We are going to focus our attention on the cutters. And I know this is going to be really basic for a lot of people, but on a chain, you're going to have cutters on your right side, cutters on your left side. And this is a full chisel chain, so this cutter is supposed to have a nice sharp tip on the end. I don't know if you could see, but it's pretty dull. So we are going to sharpen that until that tip, this tip right here, is nice and sharp, as is the bevel on the inside. And once we get this nice and sharp, it is going to cut like a brand new chain. So let's get the Dremel tool out and I'll show you how this is done. Okay, we've got our Dremel tool out, and Dremel makes this nice little handy jig that screws onto your Dremel tool, and you can see it's got 30-degree indicators, and you put a stone in there, and those little 30-degree indicators, what you're going to do is you're going to put the stone into your cutter. You're going to make sure that little indicator line is in line with your bar, And that's just going to make sure you get the right angle as you grind all of those cutters. Now, a couple words of caution. First of all, do yourself a favor, buy decent stones. I've bought the cheap ones before. They wear fast, and then you end up with undersized cutters on your chain. The Oregon stones, those are about the best I've found. They're not expensive. The other word of caution I'm going to say is go slow and steady. Don't run this on high speed. If you run this really high, you're going to overheat your cutter, and the edge of your cutter is going to turn blue like you saw on the bar, and you've just lost the tempering on your chain, and this thing's going to dull itself out really fast. So let's go ahead and sharpen this chain up really quick. Now that we have all the cutters nice and sharp, we want to check the height of these rakers, because as we sharpen these back, sometimes we have to take these things down too. Now, Oregon makes a little tool for this. It just sits right on top of your saw. It's going to cover up your cutter, and if your raker is sticking up above these two, then you just take a file and you file right across it, and it'll get the raker to the right depth. Now, I checked all these already, and everything actually looks good, so we don't have to do any filing here. Let's go ahead and take the saw outside and see how it works. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on another episode.